When we are talking about judicial review, I have a point to make. There is a difference. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is a difference between tracing out originator, which is one thing, and asking for data. Because when I know something is published over internet, I know the data, I know the information. I want the originator. But when the government is asking about the other data of that originator, I feel anything published or on the intermediary's website or whatever it is, that is not their property. We are only talking about intermediaries and the government. What about me? That was my data, that was my creativity, that was my privacy. So what I feel, we can rephrase this 3.5 or we can add a proviso to this, provided that the user whose data that was should be informed either by the intermediary or by the government, so that he can approach either the government or the courts to take a recourse before the data is leaked to the government. So I feel that this would, otherwise if there is some fake data, fake user, he won't go to the court. If there is an honest person like me, and in the name of state security, cyber security, government wants my data, I can stop, I can, still I have a recourse for judiciary, for courts.
Just giving a very short anecdote to highlight what I'm trying to sort of achieve. I was in a court one day and there was a hearing going on in relation to an issue that was supposed to be confidential. And the person who was arguing wanted to rely upon a document. And the other side, counsel suddenly got up and said that he must first tell the court how he got this document. And this was a senior counsel representing. So all that he had to say was that a little bird dropped it on my lap. And the hearing went on. Now, what I'm trying to highlight is that whether it is in the context of court officers, like lawyers, or it is in the context of officials that are enforcing or taking the step to at least try and trace these instances of alleged violations, till such time, and here I'm coming back to what Suhan was saying, till such time that there is a standard of accountability, there is no way that whether it is a judicial oversight or it is an administrative oversight or whatever committee that is put in place, till such time that there is accountability, and that accountability has to then go back to a set of standards that ought to be followed so that you can measure whether that decision was correct or not. I'm taking a very, very, crude corollary. When in our jurisprudence, there were no guidelines for what needs to be done by a police official when there is an arrest that is carried out. But subsequently, the Supreme Court came out with a whole host of guidelines. Each of those guidelines are now published or supposed to be put up in each police station, so that the people who are there, whether or not they are learning that in their respective academies, are reminded of that every day. So I think, and that's what you use as a standard to say, look, this was not followed, therefore incorrect. The reason why accountability is even more required in our country is, unlike in the US jurisprudence, you have this concept in US called fruit of a poisonous tree, which therefore, once you are able to demonstrate that it is a fruit of a poisonous tree, that evidence is excluded. That's not so in India. So therefore, the accountability is even more important. So I take it that there needs to be an oversight committee. I take it that perhaps if it has a judicial member, there is a greater likelihood that it would be judicially interpreted and implemented. However, I think till such time that accountability sets in, I don't think that we are going to get anywhere.
From the government's point, I already mentioned about some procedural safeguards we should have in the law, and which this traceability requirement completely misses out on. But what we're currently studying and also writing about is that, taking into account what's already happening, laws are coming out in the world. You look at the EU copyright directive, there are fake news laws around the world. So definitely automated filters being mandated under law is a reality now. And so what we've been thinking is that obviously tech companies need to tell us what technology they're using, what kind of content they are actively taking down. I mean, they've already started doing it under transparency reports, but they need to go much further than that, and say what technology they're using. How does it determine what is to be taken down, what is not to be taken down? So definitely from a corporation perspective, that transparency needs to come, taking into the reality that these laws are already coming into place around the world. Specifically portions on automated filters and the kind of filters these companies are using and on what basis these decisions are being made. And of course, it needs to be tied to a recourse for the user, right? I mean, a transparency situation where where there's a recourse for the user to sort of have a complaint, and I mean, Facebook is doing that with probably like the oversight board, which they're talking about. But from an industry wide perspective, there needs to be recourse for the user as well.